I was not looking for the truth when I found it. I was just trying to fix a squeak. My name is Noah Mercer. I'm 31. I work nights in a university archive in Riversend, a rainy city that turns headlights into long ribbons on wet streets. That evening, I had my dad's old leather briefcase on my kitchen table. The brass lock stuck every time, and I wanted the briefcase to look decent because he'd asked me to bring some documents to his men's fellowship breakfast on Sunday. The fellowship likes neat men with smooth leather and easy smiles. My dad, Thomas Mercer, is the smoothest of them all. A deacon, a financial advisor, a man people call solid. I pried the lock with a butter knife and laughed to myself as the top popped open. A stack of papers slid out along with a stray receipt. The receipt was from a grocery store across town I never visit. Nothing strange. Eggs, bread, laundry detergent. Then I saw the line, balloons, 12 birthday special. The date was last Saturday. Last Saturday my dad told me he was in Denver at a client seminar. I felt heat crawl up my neck. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe he sent a gift. I reached back into the briefcase and found a folded flyer for a neighborhood picnic with a handwritten note. Bring cake, L. I opened my phone, searched the neighborhood name, and hit images, then events. My search led me to a public Facebook album. A backyard with a yellow house, a picnic table with a bright tablecloth, kids with frosting on their cheeks. And there, in the third photo, was my dad. Same navy cap, same silver watch, his arm around a woman with dark hair. 2 teenagers pressed close to them. The caption, "Best dad ever." My hand shook, but my mind went strangely quiet, like a door had closed and the room had gone still. I saved the photos. I made a folder and named it Chariot. The word came to me unbidden. Chariot. I knew why. My mother once said the chariot means strength with reins, control even when the horses want to bolt. I whispered, "Don't bolt." And then I said, "Drive." AI promo prompt, 1 image, 1280 by 720, realistic cinematic, natural light night kitchen, 31-year-old man, short dark hair, gray hoodie. Stands over an open leather briefcase on a small table. Phone screen shows a family photo. An older man, 60s, neat silver hair, with another woman and 2 teens in front of a yellow house. A single pendant lamp casts a circle of warm light. Mood tense but clear. Shallow depth of field. I was 8 when my mom showed me a tarot card, the Chariot. She kept her deck in a drawer with loose buttons and old sewing needles. She was not mystical. She was a nurse. She liked the Chariot because, she said, it reminds me that willpower is a kind of kindness. You don't crush the horses. You guide them. My mom, Elena, died when I was 19. Fast illness. Slow grief. After that, my dad and I learned each other like strangers sharing a house. He handled sorrow like a spreadsheet. He kept columns. He made plans. He never let emotions spill. I tried to copy him. I kept my life clean, studio apartment, steady job at the archive, morning runs. I liked order. I liked dates, labels, records. I told myself that being useful would keep me safe. My dad liked that about me. He said I was reliable. He said we were a team. He said family before everything. I believed him. Sometimes, though, I felt this pull inside me, like 2 horses leaning in opposite directions. One horse wanted to be the son who doesn't make waves. The other wanted to ask real questions. When I found the photo of the yellow house, the pulling stopped. The reins found my hands. The quiet that entered me wasn't peace. It was a straight line. I scrolled deeper and found patterns. The woman from the photos, Lena Garza, funny how close her name sounded to my mom's, worked at a community center on the east side. The boy had my dad's mouth. The girl had his eyes, narrow at the corners when she smiled. I closed my eyes and tried to be 8 again, listening to my mom talk about the Chariot. Hold steady, she'd say. Don't let shock run the cart. That night, I printed the photos and tucked them into the briefcase. I placed the briefcase back on the chair and sat on my couch without turning on the TV. The city hissed in the rain. I felt hurt like a glass that had cracked but not shattered. I felt clarity like cold water. I wasn't planning revenge. Not yet. I was planning a route. I decided to see the yellow house with my own eyes. I told myself I would just drive by, collect the address, and go home. The street was quiet, small maples planted every 10 yards. Wind chimes on porches. It was the kind of middle street where people wave even if they don't know you. I parked 2 blocks away and walked. When I reached the house, I slowed, looked at a posted flyer for a school play, and pretended to check my phone. The mailbox said M. Garza in peeling black letters. A Go Mustangs sticker clung to the side. As I turned to leave, the front door opened. The boy from the photo stepped out, slinging a backpack onto one shoulder. His hair stuck up in the back. The girl followed, hurried, laughing. And then my dad stepped out after them, holding a cake carrier. He looked happy. Not the careful, public happy I'd seen at church potlucks, but soft around the eyes. I ducked my head the way you do when you don't want to be seen, even by people who shouldn't know you. My heart hammered. I felt the horses surge. I tightened my jaw. I counted breaths. 1, 2, 3. Control is not denial. Control is direction. I walked on. I didn't look back until I reached the corner. My dad was loading the cake into the trunk of a sedan I didn't recognize. He kissed the girl's hair, ruffled the boy's shoulder, and said something I couldn't hear. It wasn't the kiss that broke me. It was the normal. Normal is a weapon when it's built on lies. I went home and made coffee so strong it tasted like metal. Then I did what I do best. I documented. I started with what I could prove, pulling property records that showed a small family trust paid the mortgage. The trust's trustee T. Mercer, address listed as his office. The community center's donor list, Mercer Advisory at the top, big. A public fundraiser clip on YouTube showed my father calling the center a second home. I felt sick at the phrase. A second home means a second life. I printed everything. I put it in a manila folder and wrote route on the tab. Then I sat with a pen and made a list of rules. 1. Don't speak until you can prove. 2. Don't hurt kids. 3. Don't let anger steer. 4. Don't warn a man who weaponizes calm. I fell asleep on the couch with the folder on my chest like a shield. The anger came in waves. The first wave was red and loud. How could he? How could he? How could he? The second wave was quieter, and it carried a question. What else did he bend? I remembered the year after my mom died, how my dad pushed me to drop art classes because they were not productive. He wanted me to take a weekend job at his office, to learn the trade. I said yes. I learned how to translate numbers into smiles. I learned how to speak to older men about caution and war stories and bonds. I learned how to wear a tie like apology. Now I wondered if he needed me busy, so I wouldn't look too hard at anything else. I sat in the dark and let the waves pass under the wheels. The chariot in my head kept moving. I told myself I would not be a fire. I would be cold. I remembered a phrase my mom used, cold fire. She meant a steady burn you can cook on, not a blaze that eats the house. I wrote cold fire on a sticky note and put it on my laptop. I wanted to call him and shout. I wanted to drive to that house and force every truth out into the yard. I didn't. I wrote instead. I wrote what I would say to him when I was ready, plainly, with dates and facts and no theater. I wrote what I would say to the community if I had to. I wrote what I would say to myself if I decided to cut him out. You are not a traitor to your mother for refusing to be a prop. There was another current inside the anger, guilt. I felt guilty for spying, guilty for planning, guilty for the kids who did not choose where to be born. I let that current move through and out. Guilt is not a compass. It's weather. When the sun pushed a gray edge into the room, I decided on the next step. I wouldn't go to him yet. I would go to her. The community center smelled like bleach, crayons, and hope. Posters on the walls showed after-school programs, food drives, tutoring. I asked the front desk if I could speak to Lena Garza. They said she was leading a financial literacy workshop and asked if I could wait. I sat on a plastic chair and listened to the muffled sound of Lena's voice through a thin wall. She sounded like someone who shows up even when she is tired. When the workshop ended, she stepped into the hall. She froze when she saw me. Our eyes met, and I watched the math happen in her face. The jaw, the eyes, the cap, the watch. She knew. She closed the door to the room behind her and said, "We shouldn't talk here." I didn't argue. We walked outside to the small back lot. A cat watched us from under a truck. "My name is Noah," I said. "Thomas Mercer is my father." She exhaled like a person who finally sets down a box they've been carrying too far. "I'm Lena," she said. "You look like him." We stood there with the truth like a third person. She told me the kids' names, Mario and Luz. She told me she met my dad at a fundraising dinner 8 years ago. She didn't know he was married at first. Later, when she found out he was widowed, she told herself it wasn't a trap. She told herself this was a man who put family first. A good man, steady. "Does he support you?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "And the center?" "Yes," she said. "But everything is through his firm. It looks like charity. Keeps questions away." "Does he call himself their father?" I asked. Her mouth pressed tight. "At home, yes. In public, no." A small victory arrived then, not joy, just a clean line. I had confirmation from the person who mattered. I thanked her for talking to me, and I said, "I won't hurt you or them." I meant it. I also meant what I said next. "But I won't protect him." As I left, Lena said, "He will not give you the truth. He will give you calm. Be ready." I nodded. I asked my dad to meet me at Ferris Bistro, a quiet place with red booths and a polite piano soundtrack. I chose the booth in the back, ordered water, and placed the manila folder route on the table. When my dad walked in, he looked exactly like he always does. Sharp, kind eyes, a modest tie, a face that says, "Steady." He hugged me, patted my shoulder twice, and "Saturday, what's this?" he asked, tapping the folder. I slid it to him. "A map," I said. "I'd like you to look at it." He opened the folder. Photos, the yellow house, the trust records, donor lists, the community center video, a printed screenshot of the Facebook caption. "Best dad ever." He took his time. When he finished, he closed the folder and folded his hands. "Noah," he said in the soft voice he uses with nervous clients. "You've always had an eye for drama you don't need." The anger tried to light. I put a hand on the reins. "Tell me the truth," I said. "I help a family," he said. "I help a community center. I am allowed to be generous." "Are they your children?" He looked at the salt shaker. "I support them," he said. "Say the word," I said. He didn't. He told me a story about duty. He told me I was not thinking clearly. He told me grief can make you see patterns that are not there. He told me the center needs donors and donors need privacy. He told me I was a good son, and good sons do not smash other people's lives because of a misplaced feeling. "I don't have a feeling," I said. "I have records." He smiled the kind smile that hides a blade. "And what will you do with them, Noah? Go to the church? The paper? How will that help anyone? How does it help your mother's memory to be loud?" I felt a humiliation so old it tasted like childhood. I gathered the folder and stood. "I won't be loud," I said. "I will be clear." When I stepped into the rain, I shook so hard I had to lean against the brick wall. I had hoped for apology or rage or even fear. Instead, I got a wall of calm. That wall made me feel small, like a teenager asking for permission to feel. That was the fall, not the discovery, but the way he made the truth small. I went home and didn't pick up when he called. I watched the phone glow and go dark, glow and go dark. Alone, I finally let myself cry. After the crying, quiet came back. Quiet like when snow falls and the city sounds different. I made tea. I took the chariot card from the wooden box where I keep my mom's things. I laid it beside the folder. The card shows a driver holding reins, two creatures pulling opposite ways. The driver looks straight ahead. I traced the lines with my finger. I wrote a new list. Asterisk bury the old life. Not his body, not his money, but the mask he wears, the crown of solid man. The authority he pulls from a lie. Asterisk protect the kids. No names, no faces. Asterisk protect the center. Truth about money without burning the roof. Asterisk document everything. Dates, transfers, conflicts of interest. Asterisk act in public, not in anger. Let documents speak. Asterisk cut contact after a living funeral. I called Mara, a journalist a friend from the archive had once introduced me to. She covers city nonprofits and finance. I told her I had a potential story about donor self-dealing and hidden conflicts. I told her I would not give the kids names. I told her I would provide documents. She said, "Meet me at the noon cup tomorrow. We'll see if this is smoke or fire." I spent the night building a timeline wall on my apartment's whiteboard. Business trips that matched school plays. Donor pledges that matched mortgage transfers. Privacy agreements that matched photo dates. I attached copies of the trust filings. I underlined a number, $4,000 monthly labeled, stipend coordination, Garza. I followed the money from his advisory firm to the center to the trust. Loop. I wrote the word in red. Then I wrote, loops are crowns when no one looks. Cut the loop. When dawn came, I put everything into neat packets. I wrote a short, cold statement in case I needed to post publicly. I am sharing this because public honors must be built on public truth. I tucked my mom's chariot card into my wallet. I looked in the mirror and said, steady hands. Mara was early, a good sign. She wore a faded denim jacket and eyes that didn't waste movements. I laid out the packets. I explained the loop. I showed her that my father's firm funneled anonymous donations to the center, which then issued payments tied to the household with the yellow house, while the mortgage came from a trust controlled by T. Mercer. I showed her the matching dates. I showed her photos, none with kids' names visible. I gave her Lena's title at the center but not her private number. Mara asked the right questions. Did the center board know the donor controlled the trust? Did your father ever disclose to his church that his community work involved his secret household? Did any part of his client money get mixed into this? I answered what I knew and told her where I didn't. I was careful. I was cold fire. We'll need comment, she said. From the center board, from Mercer Advisory, and from your father. You'll get it, I said. But please do not alert him too early. He turns reporters into admirers if you give him time. She smiled. I'm not new. I left the cafe with my hands steady. For the first time since the briefcase popped open, I felt like I was driving, not clinging. 2 days later, invitations went out for the city service gala. The theme, Pillars of Integrity. I read the program in the paper and almost laughed. My father was scheduled to receive the Lark Award for Lifetime Community Leadership. I didn't feel glee. I felt alignment. Sometimes the road lines up under the wheels and you take it. I prepared a thread to post when his name would be announced. Timestamp documents, a clean summary, no insults, no faces, only facts. I also wrote a private letter to my father. I put it in an envelope and sealed it, not to send but to keep me honest. It said, I won't kill you. I will bury the life you built on lies. I will walk away. The ballroom smelled like flowers pretending to be forests. Round tables with white cloth. A stage with a banner about integrity. I wore a plain black suit. I stood near the back beside a pillar where I could see the crowd without being seen. My father moved through the room exactly the way he moves through Sunday mornings. Hands clasping, eyes warming, stories trimmed to flatter. People turned toward him like plants. My phone buzzed. Mara, story ready. Publishing at your mark. The program advanced. A choir, a slideshow of volunteers, a keynote from a developer who liked the sound of his own generosity. The MC announced the final award. For decades of financial guidance, humble service, and dedication to families, Thomas Mercer. Applause rose like a warm wave. My father walked to the podium. He adjusted the mic, looked humble. I opened my thread and pressed post. Within 30 seconds, the room changed. At first it was small, a few phones lighting a whisper. Then the whisper spread table to table, like a fuse under cloth. On the back wall, a live social feed projected the gala hashtag. My thread, clean white on dark, appeared. The map of a lie. Under it, copies of filings, dates, donation loops, the trust document naming T. Mercer. A summary. A public honor built on private deceit, donor self-dealing, secret dependence, board kept in the dark. Mara's article went live and linked at the second post. Deacon, advisor, donor, and undisclosed conflicts. The board chair of the center stood up from table 3. He read his phone, then touched the arm of another board member. They both left the room. Another donor followed. You could feel the math happening all over again, but this time in public. My father's smile thinned. He glanced at the screen. He tried to keep his voice calm, but the mic betrayed a hitch. Integrity, he began. The center's official account posted, effective immediately, we will conduct an independent review. We have returned the Mercer advisory donation and have asked Mr. Mercer to step back. Then a statement from a church elder. We take these reports seriously. Then clients of my father asking questions in the comments with their real names. The word integrity on the banner looked like a joke someone forgot to finish. My father stopped speaking. For the first time in my life, I saw his calm crack in public. Not break, crack. His eyes searched the room for the old magic. It wasn't there. The crown he wore, approval, authority, control, slid. I didn't cheer. I didn't gloat. I put my phone in my pocket and walked out into the night rain, breath slow, steps even. The horses were still wild. The driver was still upright. The week after the gala was strange. The city talked. The paper ran follow-ups. The center brought in a third-party accountant. Donations didn't stop. They shifted. Funds went directly to programs instead of through my father's firm. Lena texted a single sentence. Thank you for not burning us down. I didn't answer. We both understood silence as respect. My father left 3 voicemails. The first was measured. We can discuss this. The second was angry. You've hurt people. The third was almost soft. You are lost, son. I didn't reply. I wrote 1 letter and never sent it. In it, I said, I am not lost. I am choosing a road without you. I held a small ritual in my apartment. My living funeral for a life I didn't want to carry. I put my dad's leather briefcase on the table. I placed inside it the chariot card. I'd scanned it to keep a copy. A photo of me and him at my high school graduation, a church bulletin, the donor list with his name highlighted, a printed copy of my posted thread, and the sealed letter I wrote to him. I closed the briefcase, wrapped it in brown paper, and wrote on the outside, buried. I didn't throw it away. I put it on the highest shelf of the closet like ashes. Then I changed my number. I updated my will to exclude him. I told the church I would no longer attend while he served. I asked the archive to switch my shift so I wouldn't walk past his office in the mornings. I sent a short, cold email to Mercer Advisory's compliance address with a link to the article and a note. Client disclosures overdue. I walked to the river and watched the water move under the bridge. The moral I chose was simple. Power without truth is costume. The chariot is not about speed. It's about direction. You don't win by screaming. You win by driving. I didn't take his money. I didn't take his house. I took what he valued most, recognition. I left him alive and I buried the costume.